Billionaire discovers Maid studying in secret. His amazing words transformed her life forever. Stephen Caldwell stepped into the dim light of his library, a sprawling room that boasted only the solitude of his empty achievements. The fire crackled but did little to warm the chill of disappointment that had settled deep in his bones. He was wealthy, successful, and endlessly scrutinized. But standing in that mansion felt more like a gilded cage than a crown. The echo of every business deal haunted him. Each triumph felt emptier than the last. As he walked past endless shelves of knowledge he barely took time to absorb, his gaze fell upon a figure hunched over a table, highlighting a stark contrast to his sterile world. It was Maria, his dedicated maid. The sight struck him like lightning. Scattered across the table were well-worn nursing textbooks. Her brow furrowed, lips silently moving as if engaged in fierce debate with the pages before her. The enormity of her aspiration tugged at his heart. How could someone so close to him embody a dream he lost sight of? His mind raced. He felt admiration, yes, but more so, embarrassment for having allowed himself to drown in a sea of self-importance. Her grit was palpable, whereas his talents lay buried under layers of corporate success, boasting a veneer of intelligence but lacking the raw passion that propelled her forward. He coughed, announcing his presence. Maria jumped slightly, her eyes wide and filled with determination that barely masked her surprise. "Mr. Caldwell," she stammered, collecting her textbooks. The shame in her voice gnawed at him. Why should she feel ashamed? He took a step closer, a mix of curiosity and guilt bubbling within him. "What are you studying for?" The question slipped out before he could pull back, and he braced himself for a mere acknowledgement, a simple, polite excuse. I'm trying to become a nurse," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, her uncertainty collided with his pent-up discontent, drawing out an unexpected honesty. They dived into a conversation that wandered beyond textbooks and nursing protocols into realms of dreams and struggles. Hers shaped under the weight of her immigrant parents' sacrifices, his lost in the emptiness of boardrooms. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As snowflakes turned the estate into a wonderland, the blizzard outside mirrored the storm within. He started to see the jagged lines that etched Maria's face, the weariness of juggling family obligations with her ambitions. His world, once so neatly compartmentalized, began to unravel. Memories of his own family's struggles resurfaced. Why had he allowed his wealth to cloud the realities that bound him to hers? Doubt seeped into Maria's resolve as she explained her balancing act. The hope inspired by her books against the cold reality that her family depended on her wage. The tension in her voice whispered of sacrifice. Yet Stephen felt an urge, a conviction stirring within him, to help her navigate the tumultuous waters he once swam. The friends he'd held close in his elite circle would scoff at a billionaire mentoring a maid. The thought made him cringe in equal parts fear and defiance. The pressure felt heavier than ever. Just as it seemed they were reaching an understanding, Stephen received a call, a family crisis breaking through the hushed intimacies of their conversation, exposing the festering injustices he had managed to sidestep. As he stared at the screen, memories of his own pain ignited his fears about failing his family's expectations. Maria, too, was on the brink, wrestling with her dreams and the mounting burden of her loved one's needs. As they stood together in that library, with hurdles both past and present surfacing, their lives threatening to intertwine in ways neither could foresee, tension thrummed in the air. Would Stephen muster the courage to act? embrace the uncharted territory of their shared experience, and support her quest? Would Maria dive through the storm of familial loyalty to grasp the future she desperately craved? Each of them felt the weight of uncertainty, the flares of hope dimmed by doubt, leaving them standing at the precipice of possibility, a moment heavy with both thrill and fear, aching for resolution. Stephen's grip tightened on the phone, the urgency of the call pulling him back into the cold reality of his world. He forced himself to refocus on the conversation with Maria, but the voice on the other end droned on, reciting familial expectations that felt increasingly suffocating. He tried to visualize her, the way her hands danced over the pages of her books with fervor, but his thoughts were a chaotic meld of duty and disillusionment. "Mr. Caldwell?" The soft interruption shattered his reverie. Maria's uncertain voice hovered in the air, gentle yet demanding his attention. He felt the heat of her gaze, not the pleading one of a subordinate, but a search for connection, for guidance. The spark behind her eyes ignited a flicker of inspiration within him, one that nudged against the weariness he'd allowed to flourish unchecked. "Maria, He hesitated, grappling with his own uncertainties. Did he dare extend himself beyond business and trivialities? "If you truly want to become a nurse, what would you need most? Time? Resources? Support?" The words stumbled out, but he could sense importance behind them. Her brow knitted tighter, as if weighing each option. "I need everything," Maria breathed, her voice breaking the silence like glass shattering. "I'm constantly torn between my family's needs and my own. I get up before dawn, study all day, and work at night. It never seems enough." The despair in her voice rattled him, resonating with segments of his buried truth. Yet, in the depths of her struggle, Stephen felt a surge of determination, one that hadn't existed in him for years. He briefly reconsidered the gilded snare of his wealth, questioning its significance, its value compared to the raw elements of human ambition. "I can help," he stated firmly, a fire igniting within the ashes of his apathy. What did it take to shift his trajectory, to provide a chance not only for Maria, but rediscover a lost part of himself? His declaration surprised them both. Could he unlock the door of opportunity for her? Offering concrete mentorship to someone who might shatter the illusions of his perfect life felt both terrifying and thrilling. "What do you mean?" Maria eyed him skeptically, her face an intricate tapestry of hope and fear. It was as if she could hardly believe any part of this conversation could extend beyond mere words. "I could arrange for a scholarship or connect you with people who could help." "Time, Maria. You need time to study, to engage with your dreams without the terror of the clock constantly ticking away." His boldness surprised even him, yet he leaned into it as if magnetized by her ambition. The fire flickered in the hearth, but it was nothing compared to the heat blooming in their exchange. Maria's expression shifted, a flush of disbelief morphing into something profound. "You would do that for me?" The sincerity in her question anchored his resolve. A swell of annoyance followed. Why should he doubt the recommendation of a genuine offer? "You're not just a maid, Maria. You have dreams. I've buried mine for so long. Maybe it's time we navigated this together." Their shared mission began to crystallize in the air, a fragile yet burgeoning connection forged through mutual vulnerability and aspiration. But as the pause in their conversation weighed heavy, an internal storm brewed within Stephen. Would this be another empty promise? A fleeting moment of misplaced nobility? The nagging thought of societal judgments circled like vultures. And what if he failed her? Maria's eyes narrowed, delving deeper into his declared intentions. "What's in it for you?" The truth behind her suspicion sliced through him, exposing a deeper moral quandary. His heart raced. He could offer support to her and simultaneously seek redemption in his failures. Nothing, really. Just a chance to reclaim something lost along the way. Maybe to find out what I can truly offer beyond what is expected of me. As silence enveloped them, Stephen faced the ghosts of unresolved ambitions. For the first time in years, this feeling of purpose seeped through the cracks of his defenses. But just as self-doubt began to dissolve, the specter of his family's expectations reemerged, unseen chains pulling tighter around him. Could he truly dedicate himself to Maria as he ventured deeper into confronting his own stagnant existence? The answer loomed, yet it teetered on the edge of uncertainty, pulsing with the promise of change. Would he fight to help her while wrestling with his demons? In that charged moment, they stood at the cusp of discovery, cognitive dissonance feeding the tension. The path ahead lay murky, both thrilling and uncharted. What repercussions awaited them as they stepped into the unknown together? Would they each find enlightenment or unravel further? Stephen's fingers traced the outline of his desk, his usual comfort in sterile surroundings eroding with every moment spent thinking about Maria. The sensation felt foreign, this worry entwined with purpose. As he stared blankly at the polished wood, pondering the implications of his promise, a flurry of emotions rushed through him. This wasn't just about Maria anymore. In unlocking her potential, he was unlocking his own life, tethered for so long to expectations and success measured by others' standards. Guilt clawed at him. He had money and influence, but for what? Hollow accolades in a gilded cage. He straightened, eyes drifting to the portrait of his family hanging on the wall. Each smiling face fixed in time, encapsulated within the frame, felt like an accusation. What had his life become? He was rooted in place while others, like Maria, were pursuing changes with grit and sacrifice. Would it take the vulnerability of guiding another's path to rediscover the ambitions he once let rust under the weight of obligation? The entry of his assistant, Claire, interrupted his reverie. Her brisk demeanor masked the concern that flickered in her eyes. "Stephen, you're late for your meeting," she reported, glancing disapprovingly at the mess of papers scattered around his work table. He wondered how she had not already sensed the patterns unraveling in him. "Cancel it. I won't be attending." The words rolled off his tongue with unexpected conviction, each syllable a step toward asserting his autonomy. Claire stared, disbelief etched on her face. "What do you mean? You're the CEO. You can't—" "I can and I will. I have to prioritize something more important right now," he interrupted sharply, a fierce blend of determination flooding his voice. Claire shifted, clearly unsettled by his sudden turn. "This isn't like you, Stephen. Are you sure you know what you're doing?" Her probing intensified the conflict within. Yet rather than retreating into reflexive justification, he felt the resolve crystallizing. "I need to step away from the perfection of my life, even if only for a moment. There's more at stake than quarterly reports and industry accolades." He brushed past her on his way to the door, the weight of her skepticism muting behind him. Outside, the city pulsated in its rhythm, unaware of the dismantling and rebuilding happening within him. The air smelled of impending rain, and he inhaled deeply, ready to meet the reality of his introspection. With each passing moment, he found himself pulling closer to the idea of real mentorship rather than simply charity. He envisioned ways to implement a structured plan around Maria's education, a strategy rooted in accountability, not pity. They could be co-pilots in an odyssey of growth. His phone buzzed, snapping him back. It was a message from Maria, hauntingly brief. "Are you still committed? Can I trust you?" Tension gripped his chest, a maelstrom of self-doubt crashing against the firm land of responsibility. Did he possess the constitution to be the anchor she needed, or would he prove just another transient figure in her life's narrative? This was no longer an abstract conversation. It was becoming real. Swallowing hard, he typed back rapidly. "Yes, I won't let you down. Let's meet tomorrow." Setting the phone down, he paused to brace himself. What if by investing in her, he inadvertently unearthed deeper conflicts in his own identity. The specter of familial allegiance grappled with the burgeoning notion of individual purpose. Would he risk alienation to align with the authenticity he craved? His phone vibrated again, jolting him. Maria's response: "Thank you. I need someone in my corner." A rush of adrenaline coursed through him. It was as if their destinies intertwined, poised to navigate the crossroads of desire and responsibility together. Yet the echoes of societal expectation loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Would their connection fortify both their pursuits, or would it fracture under the pressure of judgment and fear? The realization washed over him. A pivotal moment awaited them, ripe with potential and threats alike. The potential for failure lingered like a shadow, but the potential for transformation ignited his spirit. As he prepared for the next day, the question of how to balance ambitions with reality pulsed through his mind. What profound revelations would emerge from this daring journey into uncertainty? Would he emerge victorious or vulnerable? In the uncharted territory of their relationship, both sought to redefine not only dreams, but also what it meant to truly be free. The moment of reckoning was close, a thrilling specter that fueled both dread and exhilaration. The stage was set. The only thing left was to confront the tides of change together. The next morning brought a cool clarity to Stephen's mind, a stark contrast to the turmoil of the previous day. His decision to step away from the polished trappings of his life felt more resolute, buoyed by a sense of responsibility both invigorating and terrifying. As he prepared for his meeting with Maria, he combed through his thoughts, still wrestling with the enormity of what lay ahead. He arrived at the small coffee shop they agreed upon, a world away from his corporate fortress. The scent of brewing coffee enveloped him, weaving a calming atmosphere that belied the storm within. Glancing around, he spotted Maria sitting at a corner table, her brow furrowed in concentration. This space, filled with ordinary patrons lost in their lives, felt like an awakening for him, a realignment of priorities. Maria looked up as he approached, her expression shifting from trepidation to hopeful anticipation. The vulnerability etched across her features struck him, and in that moment, he realized the weight of his own commitment. He wasn't just there to guide her. He was embarking on a journey of self-discovery alongside her. "Thank you for meeting me," Stephen said, taking a seat opposite her. The warmth of their shared purpose sparked a connection. "Of course," she replied, her voice steady, yet laced with unshakable nerves. "I wasn't sure if you'd actually come." "I'm here," he assured her, feeling a surge of determination. "Let's talk about your goals. How can I help you make them a reality?" Maria hesitated, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "I want to finish school, maybe even go to college. But I don't have the resources or guidance. I want to prove that I can do this." As she spoke, Stephen's mind raced. Her ambitions echoed his own buried desires, the chance to break free of external expectations and carve out a path guided by intrinsic motivation. Here was an opportunity to empower not only her, but also himself, transforming an encounter that could dissolve into mere altruism, into something profoundly reciprocal. "Let's build a plan," he suggested, willing himself to remain anchored in the moment. "What subjects do you need help with the most?" She named a few, but as they delved deeper, the conversation morphed into something more significant. They discussed dreams and potential, aspirations intertwined with fears, both of them laying bare their open wounds. Stephen could feel his own life illuminating under the lens of Maria's ambition. Each point she raised echoed with thoughts he grappled with silently, the heaviness of duty pressing against the yearning for freedom. "I used to think that success was all about money and power," Stephen admitted, testing the waters of vulnerability. "But I'm starting to realize it's about impact, about creating something meaningful." Maria looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. "You really think that?" "I'm learning," he replied, a wave of self-awareness sweeping over him. By avoiding my true passions, I've imprisoned myself while chasing what society deemed valuable. Her reaction, surprise, then appreciation, encouraged him, sparking a flame of mutual respect. This connection was deeper than mentorship. It blossomed into an alliance bound by the struggle to redefine personal truths. As their meeting drew on, he jotted down notes, formulating a structure not only for her studies, but for her belief in herself. He pledged to guide her through the academic landscape, aiming to uplift her confidence while simultaneously confronting his fears of inadequacy. But as they discussed logistics, a reality loomed. Would he truly have the fortitude to defy lingering expectations and embrace the role of creator rather than consumer? Was he prepared for the backlash that might follow, the judgment of those who saw deviation as weakness? When they finally parted ways, Stephen felt the weight of their shared ambition. He was both exhilarated and terrified, hanging on the precipice of transformation. Stepping back into the bustling city, the noise felt less overwhelming, almost invigorating. His phone buzzed again, a message from Claire. "Where have you been? I need answers about the meeting reschedule." His fingers hovered over the screen, a new tide of uncertainty crashing over him. The world he had retreated from was calling him back, yet he now stood on the brink of change with Maria at his side. Could he draw the lines between his once isolated existence and newfound purpose? As he clicked reply, uncertainty gripped him. "I'm redefining my priorities." And with those words, the journey truly began. Would he hold his ground in this new venture, or would the shadows of his former self pull him away from what he had just discovered? The battle was beginning, and Stephen could feel the stakes higher than ever before. Stephen's resolve was tested the next morning when he awoke to the familiar hum of chaos in his life, a constant barrage of emails, texts, and demands. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the conflicting tides of his new intentions and the relentless pull of expectations. That wretched corporate world, like a spider's web, clung to him with every passing moment. The thought of walking away seemed both exhilarating and terrifying. After a quick breakfast, he decided to revisit the coffee shop where he had met Maria. This time, he wanted to reinforce their newfound alliance, but not as a mentor looking down, rather as a partner navigating unknown waters. What could he provide that was truly meaningful? How might he inspire her further? As he entered, the barista greeted him with a smile and a familiar nod. Stephen scanned the room, his heart racing at the thought of Maria's presence. She was already there, sitting with an open textbook sprawled across the table. The sight made him feel lighter, invigorated by the promise of their collaboration. He waved, and she returned the gesture, her face lighting up. The vulnerability they had shared yesterday seemed to bind them even tighter. "Morning," she chirped, closing her book. There was an energy in her voice, a hint of eagerness that made his chest swell. "Morning," he replied, sliding into the seat across from her. "How did it go with the assignments we discussed?" Maria grinned, her confidence palpable. "I tackled math yesterday. A couple of concepts still tripped me up, but I got through the basics." Her pride shone through her words, and Stephen felt a rush of warmth toward her progress. "That's fantastic," he encouraged, leaning in as if he were sharing a secret. "What do you want to tackle today?" Before answering, she took a breath, her fingers fluttering nervously over the textbook. "I've been thinking, what if we started looking at some real-world applications of what I'm learning? I mean, I want to be more than just a student. I want to know how it all connects to life after school." His heart skipped a beat. The 3 words he had held close, meaningful impact, reverberated within him. "That's a brilliant idea, Maria. Let's identify some projects or problems we can solve together. I might know a few avenues where your skills could shine." As they began brainstorming, a thrill coursed through him. They exchanged ideas about local community issues, sustainable projects, and even personal aspirations. Each suggestion from Maria only multiplied Stephen's own veiled desires bubbling to the surface. Perhaps he could redefine his role not just in her life, but in a broader context as well. Suddenly, an email notification from Claire buzzed in his pocket, a reminder of the life he was entangled in. It pounded against his resolve. The easy path beckoned with promises of status and comfort. Yet, as he faced Maria's inquisitive gaze, he felt a resolve solidifying within him. He began to realize that this path, arduous as it might be, was fundamentally rooted in his authenticity. "Let's create a project together," he said, inspired by her spark. "Something small but impactful. Maybe something revolving around education. We could leverage your experience to help others." "But what about you?" Maria asked, a questioning frown on her brow. "You have your own career. Isn't it complicated to juggle this?" "For now, I want to see where this takes us," he replied, already knowing he had stepped into a new domain where life's complexities intertwined with his desires. "I'm ready for a challenge that's worth me." They spent hours crafting a plan, their creative flames igniting a rapid exchange of ideas and possibilities. It felt exhilarating, like a dance of ambitions woven together. Stephen's fear began to change form. No longer paralyzing, it became an electrifying force propelling him forward. What surprised him most, however, was that with every decision he made in support of Maria, he felt a little freer himself. This venture was not only about her transformation, it was about him reclaiming parts of himself he'd long buried. Yet as they packed up to leave, a familiar knot returned. The looming pressures of his corporate obligations tugged mercilessly at him. Would his newfound purpose be enough to withstand the weight of his old life? Could he truly step away as he had envisioned? Or would old fears undercut his ambitions? Stephen's gut twisted with unresolved tension as he strode out of the coffee shop, Maria beside him, unaware of the storm stirring within. Maybe, just maybe, the real battle lay not only in shaping Maria's future but in determining his own legitimacy in this renewed journey. Across the street, Claire's next message loomed ominously in his mind. He knew the confrontation with her expectations would come sooner than later. The question was he prepared for the fallout that would surely follow? His breath caught in his throat. The moment of truth loomed large. He took a deep breath, willing himself to embrace the uncertainty ahead. As they walked side by side, Stephen could feel the weight of Claire's message rattling in his pocket, a constant reminder that he was straddling two worlds, one full of expectations and the other rife with possibility. Maria's cheerful energy contrasted sharply with the dark cloud forming above Stephen. "Should we meet again tomorrow?" Maria asked, her enthusiasm evident. "I really want to dive into how we can use basic math principles in real-life budgeting or something." "Absolutely," he replied, his mind racing with both anticipation and doubt. Each moment spent with her felt like stepping further away from the stagnant life he had known. But the impending confrontation with Claire loomed like an ancient sentinel, warning him of the storms ahead. Once they parted outside the cafe, Stephen felt a surge of emotion. The air crackled with possibilities, yet the specter of corporate demands loomed behind him. He found himself standing on the precipice, and the question of identity loomed closer than ever. Who was he without the suit, the titles, and the echoing applause of performance metrics? That evening, he plopped down on the couch, where the dim light flickered like the uncertainty within him. Though he attempted to immerse himself in a book, his thoughts raced back to the coffee shop, to Maria's eagerness, and most importantly, to the fragile connection they had forged. He couldn't help but project himself into new scenarios, where he and Maria could shape their destinies together. Would they ignite a movement? Or was it naive to think they could challenge the status quo? The buzz from Claire's message resurrected the tension. It wasn't just a message. It was a growing expectation that had cemented itself in his life, one that threatened his nascent independence. Then came a thought. Perhaps confronting Claire would be his first true step toward authenticity, not just for himself, but for the project he envisioned with Maria. The next morning, Stephen awoke determined and anxious. With coffee in hand, he tapped out a message to Claire, requesting a meeting. The words flowed like molten steel, raw with intent, as he crafted not only a request, but a challenge to his own boundaries. They had discussed so many late-night strategies about office dynamics. This time, he intended to revolve the conversation around his desire for a different future. As he hit send, a flood of adrenaline surged through him. This small act felt monumental, like laying the first brick in a new foundation. Yet, self-doubt clawed at his thoughts. What if Claire dismissed him? What if she accused him of abandoning his responsibilities? The questions spiraled until he found a perverse comfort in their complications. They signified growth, a transition from who he had been to who he wanted to become. Deciding that action would be his greatest ally, Stephen dove into his project plans with Maria. He spent the day refining their ideas, mapping out tangible strategies. The more he engaged with her initiatives, the more resolute he felt about his own trajectory. Perhaps informing others would enlighten him, too. Later that week, he met Claire in an upscale cafe, the irony of their meeting place not lost on him. It felt simultaneously familiar and suffocating. As she walked in, her confident stride carried authority, and he felt small, besieged by her energy. He steeled himself, feeling every heartbeat echo like a drum, signaling the approach of a long-awaited battle. "Stephen, I've been meaning to discuss your performance on the latest project," Claire started, her voice confident, yet cool. "Actually, can we discuss my future?" he interrupted, surprising even himself. The words escaped as though they possessed a life of their own. Claire blinked, clearly unprepared for his audacity. "Your future?" "Yes." He took a deep breath. "I want to explore options outside of this." The words hung in the air, charged with tension and daring. Her expression flickered, revealing the volley of emotions within. The gravity of his declaration summoned a sense of exhilaration, both thrilling and terrifying. As they began to engage in a dialogue fraught with uncertainty, Stephen sensed the chance for not only a personal revolution, but a realignment of his professional identity. But the question remained. Could he navigate the storm of confrontation without retreating? Or would he be ensnared once again in a life he wasn't willing to inhabit? The answers lay ahead, and with each moment, he felt the relentless churning of his resolve, and the anticipation of what lay beyond. Would embracing this path lead to a new self, or would it lead him deeper into conflict? As they exchanged heated words, one thing was clear. The time had come to face what truly defined him. The moment hung heavily in the air, charged with the weight of Stephen's declaration. Claire's analytical eyes leveled at him, dissecting his intent, while the noise of the cafe buzzed on, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring at their table. Explore options outside of this? Her incredulity sliced through the ambient chatter, sending a shockwave through Stephen's own determination. He straightened up, spurred by both fear and a flicker of hope. "Yes," he replied, voice steadier than he felt. "I'm ready for something different, something meaningful." Claire leaned back, folding her arms across her chest. "You're suggesting you want to leave your career? What's become of the ambitions you had when we started this? The drive to succeed?" His heart raced as he faced her probing question. Was it ambition that had guided him, or merely a path well trodden? "Ambition can look different, Claire. I'm not chasing titles or metrics anymore. I want my work to have impact, to matter in ways that echo beyond profit margins." Claire's eyebrows lifted slightly, a hint of surprise mingling with skepticism. "So, you're saying you want to work on some project with Maria, a grassroots budgeting initiative? That's your grand plan?" "No, it wasn't just a plan. It was a vision. Yet he felt the weight of her doubts press down on him. It's more than just a project. Maria and I believe we can empower people with the skills they need for financial literacy. Empower? She echoed, the word dripping with condescension. It sounds idealistic, Stephen. You're throwing away years of hard work for something uncertain and without a guarantee. Isn't that how change happens? He fought to keep his tone even, battling against the swell of frustration. You said you valued innovation, but it seems like you prefer polished presentations over raw ideas. Her eyes narrowed, a glint of challenge igniting in them. You're attaching all your value to this whim, Stephen. Are you truly prepared to disrupt everything you've built here? I'm ready to disrupt what I thought I had built, he said, generating the strength to stand firm in his belief. Each word was drenched in the weight of newly found resolve, like armor forged in the flames of doubt. This is about authenticity. If that means breaking away from safe choices, then so be it. Claire's expression hardened. You really think walking away will be easy? The moment you step out that door, you'll lose your security blanket. Stephen felt the tremor of uncertainty, but it was swiftly crushed beneath newfound conviction. I'm not walking away. I'm evolving. With each exchange, he felt the swell of self-assurance rising within him, a long-buried spark igniting into a flame. The hectic space of the cafe faded as he focused entirely on Claire's reaction. This conversation was forging his identity, piece by piece. Despite Claire's attempts to undermine his aspirations, Stephen stood firm. I understand the risks, but I'd rather step into the unknown than continue living someone else's dream. For a moment, silence enveloped them, a stillness thick with unspoken words and unresolved tension. Stephen's heart hammered as he waited for her response, readying himself for her rebuttal. Prepared for anything, really. I have to think about this, she said finally, the steel in her voice softened by a fraction of uncertainty. It's not an easy decision for either of us. As they wrapped up their meeting, Stephen felt a mingling of dread and exhilaration. The conversation had shifted something deep within him, a watershed moment that could not be unseen. Each step toward this new goal felt like stepping deeper into uncharted territory, and he questioned what obstacles awaited. Walking out of the cafe, Stephen couldn't shake the disquiet that shadowed him. Would he stand firm against the tides of doubt? Would Claire's verdict damage his momentum, or push him further into this quest for meaning? He had no answers, only the burning need to discover them. Yet as he approached his car, one thought remained predominant in his mind. This fight was only just beginning. The real test lay ahead. He had to confront not only the external challenges, but the internal fears that whispered insidiously in the shadows of his resolve. What would happen when failure knocked at his door, or when success began to materialize in ways he had not expected? The path twisted ahead, demanding every ounce of courage he had. With every heartbeat, he felt the conflict swirl around him, and in that chaos, a hint of clarity emerged. But could he seize it before it slipped away? As Stephen settled into the driving seat, he allowed the familiar contours of the steering wheel to soothe his racing thoughts. The usual ritual of flipping through playlists felt different tonight, devoid of the comforting melodies that once filled the air. Instead, he stared through the windshield, utterly lost in contemplation. The conversation with Claire echoed in his mind, each word reverberating like an unresolved chord. What had once seemed a straightforward choice now morphed into a daunting labyrinth of possibilities. He could only imagine her skepticism lingering, casting a harsh light on the idealism he now embraced. With a deep exhale, Stephen realized he needed a strategy, a plan that extended beyond the initial sparks of his newfound aspiration. He drove aimlessly, seeking both distraction and inspiration. As streetlights flashed by, he found himself contemplating how his skills could translate into this new realm of financial literacy. With a sudden resolve, he pulled into a secluded parking lot, dimly lit yet quiet, perfect for reflection. He opened his laptop, the screen illuminating the interior of the car, and began to sketch an outline of what his initiative could look like. Names danced in his mind: workshops, community outreach, collaboration with local organizations. But still, a nagging doubt lingered. Could he really make an impact? The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him as he thought of people like Maria, who had commendably dedicated their lives to such causes. What qualified him to step into this space when his expertise had been predominantly in a corporate environment? Grabbing a notepad, he began jotting down hidden strengths he had overlooked. He had mastered the art of negotiation under pressure, navigated complex financial models, and could present information clearly, skills that could form a bridge between complex financial concepts and people seeking knowledge. The realization flooded him with newfound energy. Perhaps he had the tools to carry this out after all. Yet doubt still loomed. He pictured Claire's face again, incredulity morphing into disapproval. Idealistic, she had called him. Were dreams foolish if they lacked guarantees? He felt a tightening in his chest, battling not just external skepticism, but a deep-seated belief that success could be mapped as easily as any quarterly report. Then a thought struck him. Success was no longer about spreadsheets. It was about real-world application, about creating tangible change. The fear of failure began shifting subtly into a possible indicator of growth. If failure came calling, it could serve as a lesson, not an end. He jotted down a new heading on his pad: resilience. With this fresh perspective, a flicker of excitement ignited within. He had spent too long confined to the metrics of corporate success, and now the invitation to explore a more significant purpose felt liberating. He wanted to uncover the stories of people in his community, pull them from the shadows of financial ignorance, and illuminate pathways they hadn't considered. As the night deepened, Stephen's thoughts cascaded into focus. The approach to his new venture developed rapidly in his mind, outlining what community engagement might look like and how to craft educational tools. Still, a critical question nagged at him. How would he take tangible steps beyond ideas and theory? The realization struck him that he needed to collaborate and expand this vision. Queuing in his mind were potential avenues to seek mentors, allies, and resources. He resolved to meet Maria soon. She might provide the grounded perspective he needed to refine his initiative. Suddenly, a jolt of anxiety shot through him. Would Maria encourage him, or dismiss his vision as naive? Stephen gripped the notepad with urgency, flipping to a fresh page. This new encounter could pivot everything, guiding his journey into practical realities. He sensed the risk ahead, but could feel the path, uncertainty veiling promise. As he turned the ignition back on, anticipation coursed through him. Tomorrow would not just be another day, it would be the beginning of actualizing this vision, a chance to confront potential conflict openly. Could he secure Maria's support? The moment of truth loomed as he pulled back onto the road, excitement mingling with the anxiety swelling within him. With every mile, he felt a shift within. This was not just about leaving behind an old life, but about stepping boldly toward an indispensable new one. As he navigated the familiar streets, a singular thought took form. Would Maria share his passion, or would doubt encroach upon his ambitions once more? The early morning sun barely pierced through the trees as Stephen parked outside Maria's modest office. The familiar dichotomy of anxiety and anticipation gripped him, urging him to take a deep breath before stepping into this new environment. He had spent the night rehearsing what to say, crafting lines that he hoped would convey the urgency of his vision without overwhelming her. As he entered, the faint scent of brewed coffee mingled with books, and the faint sound of soft jazz created a cozy atmosphere. Maria sat behind her desk, poring over financial reports, her brow slightly furrowed. Her dedication was palpable, but so was the weariness she carried. Stephen was struck by the juxtaposition of the woman who had dedicated her life to financial literacy versus the man still piecing together his aspirations. "Maria," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Thank you for meeting with me." Her gaze shifted from the papers to Stephen, eyes brightening with recognition. "Of course, Stephen. What's on your mind?" He hesitated, scouring for the right words. "I've been reflecting on the challenges people face with financial literacy. I've been drawn to this space, wanting to make a difference. But I realize I need your insights." Maria leaned back, her interest piqued. "What specifically are you proposing?" With each word, his conviction strengthened. "I want to create workshops tailored to those who feel overwhelmed by financial systems. I believe my background in corporate finance can help bridge that gap, but I need someone with your experience to help refine the approach." A flicker of concern shadowed her face. "Do you really understand the realities? Many people have different struggles than those we face in the corporate world." Her skepticism stung, but it also fueled Stephen's resolve. "I want to hear those stories," he asserted. "I want to learn from those challenges, but I feel like my vision is limited without someone like you to guide it." Maria tilted her head, considering him. Stephen could see the wheels turning in her mind, yet an undercurrent of doubt lingered in the air. "I appreciate your passion," she said slowly. "But understand that true financial literacy isn't just about teaching facts. It's about altering mindsets, addressing fears, and challenging norms. Are you ready for that?" His heart raced, each word a reminder of the depth of their discussion. "Yes, that's exactly why I'm here. I want to facilitate those conversations, to reveal the real hurdles people face, and empower them to overcome them." Maria's gaze softened slightly. "If you're serious about this, Stephen, you need to immerse yourself in their world. Talk to them. Understand the context of their financial habits. It starts there." The advice resonated with him. This was not just about imparting knowledge. It was about creating a dialogue, a shared experience. The willingness to be vulnerable was essential. He realized he would have to confront his privilege directly, uncover the gaps between his understanding and theirs. "Let's get to work then," he said, his voice firm. "Help me engage with the community. I can't do this without you." A faint smile broke across Maria's face. "All right, but be prepared. You might find truths that challenge your very perspective." Her words hung in the air like a challenge, sending a jolt through Stephen. He felt a surge of determination coupled with the unsettling awareness of the complexities ahead. As they began discussing logistics, Stephen's mind raced with the various ways to execute this plan. His hidden strengths were no longer theoretical. They were about to be tested in real life. But beneath the surface of enthusiasm lurked an echo of that skepticism. Could he handle uncovering those uncomfortable truths? With each passing minute, he felt the weight of his commitment. But freedom whispered. This was the first step toward true impact. The day faded into plans and ideas, but a question lingered for him. What would he discover about himself and his community by stepping into this new reality? As they concluded their meeting, Maria's eyes sparkled with a mix of challenge and encouragement. "Prepare for deep conversations, Stephen. You will rise and fall with what you learn. Are you ready to face the truths hiding in plain sight?" The gravity of her words sank in as he nodded, adrenaline coursing through him. The urgency of his purpose pulsed stronger as he understood the deeper implications of their endeavor. He wasn't just learning. He was stepping into an unknown where vulnerability and resilience would intertwine. What had been an idea was now a mission. But what he didn't know was how closely he would have to confront his own biases and fears in the process. Would he emerge stronger, or would doubt threaten what he was building? Weeks passed, and with each workshop they initiated alongside Maria, Stephen felt a profound transformation within himself. Together, they touched the lives of many individuals, unraveling the hidden narratives of financial struggle, unpacking complex issues, and nurturing a fertile ground for new understandings. Each session revealed layered truths and potent emotions, and Stephen found himself standing shoulder to shoulder with participants, not above them. He witnessed firsthand the moment when understanding sparked in someone's eyes, when an individual who had lived in the shadows of financial illiteracy grasped a concept he had long taken for granted. It felt like exponential growth, not just in knowledge, but in character. He began to see that the meaningful change he craved was rooted in connections and shared experiences. Maria's expertise proved invaluable. She channeled her own experiences into the curriculum, making the workshops not merely lectures, but dynamic discussions filled with heartfelt stories. With every challenge they faced together, Stephen grew more resilient, more grounded in his purpose. As they navigated obstacles, a lack of funding, differing community attitudes, and skepticism, his mindset shifted from fear of failure to a focus on how to pivot and adapt. One day, as they wrapped up a particularly emotive workshop, Maria turned to Stephen, her expression a blend of exhaustion and fulfillment. "You've become an incredible partner in this," she noted, a sense of pride illuminating her features. "Your willingness to learn and immerse yourself in this work is inspiring. I didn't think you could let go of your past identity this much." Her validation struck a chord within him. The person he once was felt like a distant memory, eclipsed by the depth of fulfillment he now experienced. "It feels revitalizing to step away from my former life," he confessed. "Those titles, the expectations, they don't mean anything compared to this purpose." As their outreach expanded, securing partnerships with local organizations and community leaders, external recognition followed. They were featured in a local newspaper, hailed as champions of financial empowerment, painting a picture of change that spanned beyond their initial aim. Stephen soaked up the accolades, but they meant much more to him than accolades ever had. Feedback from their workshops began pouring in. "You've changed my perspective," one participant wrote. "I finally understand how to budget." They were messages of gratitude that fueled Stephen's resolve. He reveled in the triumphs of the individuals he had grown to care about, feeling proud of every step they took toward financial independence. Months passed, and as they prepared for their final expansive workshop of the semester, filled with excitement and anticipation, Maria offered him a tentative smile. "Are you ready for this, Stephen?" He nodded, feeling solid confidence as he glanced at the community center where their journeys had reshaped lives. The buzz in the room mirrored what he felt inside, a family forged through their mutual endeavors. "Absolutely. We've built something important here," he said, knowing that this was just the beginning. That day, standing in front of a packed room, Stephen delivered the keynote address with an authority that stunned him. The applause that erupted wasn't merely for him. It was a tribute to everyone involved. He had transitioned from a place of uncertainty to standing as a recognized figure of competence, someone who contributed meaningfully to the community. As they wrapped up the session, Maria approached him, her eyes shimmering with hope. "We did this together, Stephen. Look at how far we've come." In that moment, he knew he had conquered not only the challenges that lay ahead in their shared mission, but also the ghosts of his identity. He no longer felt bound by his past. He had stepped into a role that showcased his strengths while embracing vulnerability. With the workshop an undeniable success, feedback resonated far beyond the walls. They gained the attention of larger nonprofits, offers for further partnerships sprang up like wildflowers, and a flourishing network began to bloom. Stephen's personal accomplishment didn't stop at external success. It was rooted in his newfound clarity of purpose, a commitment to forge paths for others, while continuing to uncover his own truth. He had learned to lead with empathy, to ask the questions he once feared, and to relish in the collective journey toward empowerment. As the cheers faded and the audience dispersed, Maria stood beside him, laughter bubbling between them at the overwhelming sense of achievement. "What's next for you?" she asked, her hopeful demeanor a balm for his soul. "I don't know yet," he responded, "but I'm excited to find out." Their shared laughter echoed, solidifying a bond forged through authentic growth. The possibilities unfurled like the wide-open sky above, a reminder that life is best lived in partnership. As he embraced the unknown, he understood that he had not just discovered the best version of himself, he had unlocked a future dedicated to lifting others in the process. For the first time in a long time, he stepped forward into the compelling mystery of tomorrow, with unshakable confidence. Now, we reach not just the conclusion of Stephen's transformation, but also an invitation for you to embark on your own journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Comment below with your thoughts on this ending and how you connect with this journey. Lastly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait. Even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel.